Okay, so while you're doing that, today we're going to look at pricing. Yeah, so we're going to go to the next P of the four P's, and this chapter we're going to look at pricing. Okay, so we're going to touch on a couple of objectives, as you can see here, where we will contemplate on pricing and how that corresponds to a company's marketing strategy. Right. For those of you who have completed your Animonsta Studio activity, thank you very much for putting that in. So some of you shared your learnings this morning. Some of you were early. Last week already you finished. And a number of you finished today. So that's fine. I just need some time to actually go in and take a look at it. And then I will comment directly on the Padlet, especially on the part where you make recommendations for the company, especially in the ways forward. Okay, so in the coming week, just look out for my comments. I'll comment directly. Okay, so now let's go into pricing. Okay, let's go into pricing. So in the past, many years ago, you'll see that price is actually set using negotiations. So you reflect back to the early times in history when we had barter trade, and then after barter trade, we have sailors that actually bring goods from all over the world. Usually, the price is set through negotiations, right? So they negotiate what's a suitable price, and then after that, they will sell the item. However, you can see that in more modern times, the firm actually sets the price, and it's just one price for all buyers. So, like for example, if you go to a mall or if you go to Shopee, you'll see that it is one price, and you typically expect that everyone will pay the same price for that same item. Um, However, okay, oh, hang on, let me let your friend in. Okay, however, you will also see that we also have this thing where a lot of businesses have also moved online, right? So what happens when you have a lot of businesses online? It's very easy for consumers and also other businesses, so competitors, to actually monitor prices. Okay, so at any one point, I can whip out my mobile phone and I can check across all online platforms what is the price of that good. So very easily in a few taps of my finger, I can actually find the lowest price or the best deal for the item that I want to look for. So what does that mean? That means that if I am in an organization and I'm setting my price or I'm monitoring my competitor's price, now it's also become very easy because I can just go online and I can actually monitor from there. So that makes the marketplace even more competitive than it was before. Okay. And the thing about pricing is that pricing is a key decision that companies actually need to make, and it will have a very significant impact on the marketing strategy. Not only in terms of how many people will actually buy the item, but also pricing in a big way actually helps to position that particular product in the minds of consumers. So what I mean by this is that if we are in a we are appealing to a target market who wants luxury items, you can already imagine the price is in the thousands, right? For example, a Birkin bag will cost thousands and thousands of ringgit. And that price tag of that thousands of ringgit actually signifies that it is actually inside a luxury punya brand. I cannot call my brand a luxury brand if I'm selling it for Seringgit 99 cents. That's not a luxury brand. That's very affordable punya goods at a low price. Okay. So pricing actually is a big decision for a company because pricing actually helps to position the brand. Okay, so here you'll see that when we are talking about or when we're thinking about small firms, so I'm talking about maybe our neighborhood punya restaurant ataupun our neighborhood punya sports shop that's not a chain shop, that's not a franchise, it's just one shop by itself run by an uncle or auntie that you actually know. In smaller firms, you'll see that the owners actually set the prices for the goods that they carry. However, in large companies, so I'm talking about maybe a Procter and Gamble, a Unilever, where they have multiple divisions, multiple products, multiple services. In large companies, it becomes more complex. So when it becomes more complex, you will see that perhaps the division or the product line managers are the one that actually set the price. So, for example, if I'm talking about a brand like Procter and Gamble, a big company that has many multiple brands within it. So, for example, the Dove punya brand manager ataupun the Dove punya marketing manager is the one that will actually set dia punya pricing for dia punya products. Of course, in a big organization like that, sometimes it's done with together with the pricing punya department. So organizations that have more complex costs and complex punya product in terms of setting their punya price, you will see that they will have a pricing punya department. And within their punya pricing punya department, they got individuals who are maybe trained in statistics or even economics to actually help them do the calculations to actually set their punya price, right? So that is just a little bit about to understand who actually sets the price within an organization. Okay. Right. So how do they form their opinion of pricing? For consumers, the way they form their opinion of pricing largely is based on their punya prior pricing experience. So the over time when people buy things, you become more and more familiar, or we become more and more familiar with the pricing, so we can agak-agak what is the price of the item. So the prior purchasing experience actually shapes our mindset as a consumer of what is the next price that we will actually pay. Okay. Other than that, consumers also depend on formal communication. So from a firm point of view, or for a company point of view, that means that we have to be very clear when we come up with a new product that the pricing needs to be communicated. And it's a decision that the marketing team will actually make at which point, okay, do they actually communicate the price, because you know that for some products you actually don't see the price up front. For example, a 5-star hotel, we actually don't see the price up front. We have to go online to look for the price, then you kita nampak. So that's a decision that the marketing team needs to make by taking into account that consumers actually are dependent on formal communication from the company to actually find out how much that price is. Okay, so similarly with that, we go to the fourth point, which is at the point of purchase, or as you see here, online resources. This is also where consumers need to know what the price actually is. So imagine you walk into Watson, right? You walk into Watson, and you need to find out what is the price of the skincare item that you're buying. So that means that when you are trying to make your decision in Watson itself, you need to actually see the price. That is the point of purchase punya pricing kena ada di sana. So here for the marketing team, they have to pay attention to the fact that formal communication have to have pricing, and point of purchase also have to have pricing. If it's sold online also, then the pricing has to be there so that they can actually make the transaction. Okay, and then finally, informal communication is another good source of pricing that actually shapes the consumer's mind. So sometimes when we're not familiar with a certain product category or a certain brand, the first thing we do is we WhatsApp our friend or somebody we trust to actually ask, can you give me a ballpark figure? How much does that cost? How much did you just recently buy it? How much do you pay for it? So from our conversations with people we trust, you also see that it shapes our mindset of pricing. Okay, all right. Now, can I just see, for all of those of you that are driving cars, can you give me a thumbs up? All of you that are driving cars, you bought Greta, Harith, okay. 4, Hafiz, 5, 6. Okay, so I see about 6. Maybe there are a little bit more, but I see about 6. 7, Rania as well. Okay, for those of you who are driving cars right now, without looking online, can you tell me what is the range of price for a Myvi, if you're driving a Myvi, or if you're buying, let's see, something more common. Okay, something common that can fit in any brand car. How much do you pay for you punya kereta punya pewangi? How much do you pay for you punya kereta punya pewangi? Can you put it in the chat section? For those of you driving your own car, how much do you pay for you punya kereta punya pewangi? Hari says 20 ringgit. What about the rest?
Below 10, below 10.
Below 10. Okay, below 10. Okay. Faris 15 to 20 per month. It's not a subscription, right? You just tukar lah, basically. Betul tak? Okay. And where do you go to buy this pewangi? Below 10, do you go to Mr. DIY?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, Mr. DIY is good. A lot of choice. For the 20 ringgit one, where do you go and buy, Haris? You beli kat mana? You punya pewangi kereta. Haris, bangun Haris. Haris kata random . Okay. Yeah. So this indicates that actually when we're having this conversation, and as everyone is actually looking at this conversation, if you're not used to buying pewangi punya kereta punya pewangi, now you start to have an idea already of how much people actually spend on their punya kereta punya pewangi, and you can see that for the very affordable punya section, Mr. DIY, you'll be below 10. Yeah, because it's very good deal. Mr. DIY really is very good deal. It still does his job. It's still a pewangi kereta lah. So ikut cita rasa lah. So basically my point is that informal communication, when we talk with friends, we can sort of set their punya price range of what we're willing to pay for, what we're not willing to pay for. And of course we also want to know, if it's 20 ringgit, what's the difference? What is it that is so nice about Haris punya pewangi? All right. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide, where you will realize that when we buy things, we have a price threshold. Okay, we have this price threshold. So what is this price threshold? Basically, when we see certain pricing, we have an idea inside our head of whether that pricing actually is reasonable ataupun tidak. And this differs from each person to the next person, meaning that for some of you, let's say you want to buy pewangi kereta tadi, for regular punya quality, you have a certain pricing already inside your head. So for example, for me, the regular punya pricing for pewangi kereta will be something like 799. Okay, anything above 799, I will perceive as it has some sort of higher quality, or there must be something special about it. Then I want to know, okay, what's so special about that pewangi kereta? So like tadi, Harif punya pewangi kereta is 20 ringgit. I will want to know already, 20 ringgit, that's a little bit higher than my own threshold for the price. So I want to know, apa dia? Okay, so Harif tell me that it's actually tahan lama. Thanks, Harif. Right? So Harris tells me that, it tahan lama. So okay lah, I'm getting something that's more quality from that RM20 ringgit that I pay, for example lah. So each of you, for different products, you have different product price punya threshold, where you will associate certain pricing to certain level of quality. Okay, so you will see that for most of the ladies here, when you buy hijab, you will know that if you actually go to the Pasar Malam to buy hijab, or if you go to online Shopee and you choose the Pasar Malam type of shop, then your price range, price threshold that you will pay for everyday kegunaan harian, just the normal everyday punya kegunaan harian punya hijab, maybe is about 15 ringgit. Is that accurate? If that's the everyday punya use that you can buy many colors, is okay. But once you go for the dark and things like that, once it hits like 100, above 100 ringgit, you already perceive that, the hijab has to be higher quality, the brand name has to be visible because you're paying for dia punya brand name, right? So each of you have got different price threshold for different products, which you will actually associate dengan whether it is low quality, regular, ataupun high quality. Okay, so that's what we need to understand when we talk about consumer and juga consumer punya how they think about pricing. So the key thing take away dekat sini ialah each of us ada price threshold yang berbeza when we actually think about different products and their level of quality. Okay, right. So then we go on to reference pricing. Okay, so here when we talk about reference pricing, as I mentioned earlier already, typically what we usually can remember is that we remember price ranges. So we would know that kalau I beli pewangi kereta yang biasa, the price range is maybe something from RM1 to about RM8 or so. Okay, whereas I might not remember dia punya specific punya price. Okay, I might not remember dia punya specific punya price, but I boleh agak-agak, okay, from this range to this range, it belongs to Mr. DIY. From this range to this range, you actually need to go inside Aeon and buy and so on and so forth. Okay, so what does that mean? That means that we can agak-agak what products actually belong to what level of quality. Okay, so you will see already that, okay, if we want to understand what are cheap everyday products that we can use, it will be indicated dalam dia punya price. And then the affordable one with a little bit more quality, it will also be indicated dalam dia punya price. Okay, so that is known as image pricing. Okay, that's known as image pricing. So the thing about pricing according to their punya quality is that I'm very sure most of you have seen this particular brand of car before, which is this is a Ferrari. And as most of us know, Ferrari is actually a luxury item. Okay, so for a luxury item to remain a luxury item, the caveat here is that it must be something that remains in scarcity. Sebab dia nak exclusive. The point here is that kalau it's a luxury product, it must remain exclusive. It should not be a product where you can see everybody using a Ferrari. Okay, if it's everybody using a Ferrari, that means it's a very affordable product like a MyV and everybody can use it. But that's not the point of a luxury good. Okay, the point of a luxury good is that it must remain scarce. So that means, for example, you tengok dekat sini, for Ferrari cars in China, although China's population is sangat-sangat besar, they only sell 7,000 units a year because they want to make sure that only certain people can afford it, and they on purpose price it very high as well because they want to only capture the luxury punya market. So for a brand like this, the game that they're playing is not a discounting punya game, bukan. The game that they're playing is that they want to make sure that they remain dia punya exclusivity, right? So dia punya pricing, as you can see now, dia punya pricing kena-kena dengan dia punya strategy. So the brand has to know very well mana dia nak position and what is the appropriate punya pricing, because the pricing actually is a expression of dia punya strategy, and it will correspond back to dia punya target market that dia nak. Okay, okay, next slide. Kita tengok price cues. So price cues is not new to you. I know you've learned about price cues before, where you can see that dia punya number endings can actually influence how the consumer interpret dia punya pricing. Okay, so for most of us, kita punya the way we read numbers is that we process the information from left to right. Okay, and typically kalau kita nampak 99 macam ni, there is a tendency for us to perceive that this is RM5, but in actual fact it's actually closer to RM6. Okay, and also when we use 99 like this, it is also perceived as it is some sort of bargain punya item. So you can imagine that if I'm actually selling a luxury good, maybe I will use a 99 punya backing macam ni, right? And then research has also shown that if the pricing ends with 0 or 5, it's actually easier for consumers to actually process the pricing. Okay, all right. So now that we're done with that and also how consumers actually perceive numbers and also pricing, we move on to how the price is actually being set. Okay, so to set a price, there's actually 6 main steps. And in the following slides, what we're going to do is we're going to go through each one of these steps. Okay, so we start with the first one, which is defining the price punya objective. Okay, so when we're defining the price punya objective, the company actually can consider 4 different types of objective. So dia ada short-term profit, market penetration, market skimming, dan juga quality leadership. So I believe in the previous classes, some of the previous classes you would have seen this before. So this is a bit of a revision for you. Okay, so let's re-look at this pricing punya objective. What does it mean kalau company tu is going for short-term punya profit? So in a short period of time, they want as much profit as possible. So if they want as much profit as possible, the question here is, what is the price that they will set to make sure that dia dapat maximum current profit. Okay, maximum current profit, maximize dia punya cash flow dan juga maximize dia punya return on investment. Okay, so as you know, some businesses, they set up the business and then they sell. Okay, so there are some people who make a career out of setting up businesses. They set up, then they sell to someone else. They don't want to run the business for long term. So in businesses like that, when they are running the business, they might want to get short-term profit as much as possible. So they will set the appropriate pricing to make sure that they maximize their punya current profit sebab dia dah tahu lepas ni dia nak jual business tu. Alright? So here they will need to price according to apa yang dia nak buat. Okay? Then we have market penetration. So market penetration also you've heard many times before already until now. Most of you, without me even explaining, you already know. Market penetration, basically, they want to get more customers on their site. When they get more customers on their site, that means that dia boleh expand dia punya market share. So to make sure that the customers, existing customers jump from their punya competitor over to that company A, what they need to do is typically they will set a low price. Okay, so the low price will entice dia punya customer masuk beli barang dia, and that in turn will ensure that they akan maximize dia punya market share. Okay. Then we also have market skimming. So what is market skimming? Market skimming you will typically see when you have a product that other competitors don't have. So if a company like Sony, typically let's say they have the latest type of television punya technology, you will see that what Sony will typically do is, because they are the only ones who have that technology, when they introduce that particular item, they will set it at a very high price. Okay, sebab tak ada orang ada teknologi tu, dia seorang saja yang ada. So if you want to buy that super flat screen or curved screen with the super audio and things like that, you only buy from Sony. So for a period of time, you can imagine there's a lot of buzz about this latest Sony punya curved screen dan sebagainya. So at that point of time where dia belum ada competitor yang lain yang ada product yang exactly the same as them, they can actually price very high. And then as competitors start making the same thing, mungkin dia mimic barang dia, okay? As the competitors start making the same thing, you'll see that the price will slowly drop over time. So this is very common dengan electronic punya goods, where you see that initially dia akan, what do you say, introduce into the market very high price, then after that dia turun. It was also the same for Dyson punya hair dryer, where dia masuk at 1,000 something for one hair dryer, and then after that the prices go down as more competitors come into their punya market. Okay, and then the last one here ialah quality leadership. So for quality leadership, the company already knows that dia memang akan memberi something that is berquality. But here, when they look at this something yang berquality, what they can also do is they can try to introduce this thing called affordable punya luxury. And this affordable luxury would mean that we can still afford it, okay? We can still afford it, but it then becomes a choice lah, that kita memang nak beli barang tu, and we stick to that choice because we know that we're getting a certain level of quality that we appreciate. all right? But it's just enough. Okay, the pricing is just high enough not to be out of the consumer punya reach. So that means that even though they give quality, they're not into luxury, exactly luxury punya market where the prices is just, off the charts. But this one is, most people can afford it, but it's just high enough, right? High enough, just to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable when you actually buy this item. But to do that, we have to promise certain quality. Okay, so that is quality punya leadership. Okay, now that we are done with this defining price objective, okay, defining price objective, sekarang kita masuk kepada determining the demand. Okay, so when we look at determining demand, this is also not new to you. You would have seen price elasticity of demand dalam economics. And then again in your marketing punya subject pun ada. Okay, when we talk about kita punya pricing. Okay. So I'm sure you remember that there's such a thing called inelastic punya demand, and there's also such a thing called elastic punya demand. Okay, what is the difference between these two? If you can actually remember, elastic punya demand bermaksud that when they change the price by a bit, there is a huge difference in the quantity that they sell. That means that kalau price tu tukar sikit je, you tengok, okay, dia punya demand akan drop. Okay, so for example, things that dia punya demand adalah elastic is things like ayam, telur. When you see that they change the price a bit, there's already a lot of rumbling. A lot of people don't want to buy. A lot of people try to look for other type of protein and so on. Okay, that is elastic punya demand. Then there's also inelastic demand, which is basically the opposite of each other, where when they change the price, they see that the changes in their punya quantity of demand actually doesn't change very much. So items or brands in luxury punya segment, kalau the price changes by a bit, you will see that there isn't much difference in their punya demand. And also for items where their punya target market is very loyal, you'll see that if they make small changes in the price, people still continue to buy that particular brand, which is an indicator of why businesses like to build loyal punya base of customers. Okay, so here, what we want to try to understand when we look at this type of elastic and inelastic punya demand is to recognize for my company, what is it that my customers respond to, in a sense that am I in a category of product where dia punya demand adalah elastic ataupun inelastic? If I'm selling something that's elastic, that means that I cannot simply change the price. Okay, because if I simply raise the price, I will see that the demand will actually drop. However, if I drop the price, that means that a lot of people will actually come and buy my things. So the point here is to understand for a particular company whether their demand is elastic ataupun inelastic. Understanding this will then help them decide how to actually go about dia punya price increase ataupun dia punya price drop. Okay, so we also want to understand when price elasticity is actually low. Okay, so that means that when are consumers actually not very sensitive towards perubahan harga? That means kalau you ubah harga pun, consumer tu boleh terima. Okay, so in what scenario do we have that kalau kita ubah dia punya harga, consumer boleh terima? So there are 6 scenarios here. Okay, when the product is very distinctive, where there are very few or no substitutes ataupun competitors, you will see that dia punya price elasticity is actually low. Okay, and you will also see that there are some consumers, okay, when some consumers, they already stuck to dia punya buying habits. That means they already form in their mind that every week saya hanya beli deterjen Dynamo saja. Saya memang tak berminat nak beli deterjen lain. you see that their response to price elasticity is actually low. So if you change the price by 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents, they will be like, it's okay lah. I just want to buy my dynamo, which is already part of my life. It's my habit. I like that my clothes smell that way. I'm comfortable with this brand. I continue to buy this brand, even though there is fluctuation in the price. Okay. Also, price elasticity is low when the consumers actually think the higher price is actually justified. So if as the marketer, we can actually justify that, the price has gone up because there is a good reason for it, then you will also see that, okay, the consumers then will actually accept the price. So for example, a popular one would be if we have government taxation. So government taxation would mean that that directive actually comes from the government. It doesn't come from the company, and the company also doesn't benefit from it. So in these type of scenarios, if it is a nationwide punya policy, everybody have to follow, then everybody will adjust their punya prices. So you see that if you actually have a good justification for why the price actually goes up, you will see that consumers maybe their punya price elasticity akan rendah ataupun dia continue to buy lah. They don't have a knee-jerk reaction when they stop buying or they change brands, right? And you will also see that some consumers don't always notice a higher price. Okay, there are some consumers that don't always notice a higher price. So this could be that maybe it's connected to number 5, that the things that they buy, the expenditure is just overall not that high to them. So maybe these are people who are very comfortable. They have a lot of extra income, discretionary income, a lot of it, and they don't think that this is a big cost. So sometimes they just don't notice this type of changes in their punya price. Okay, or it only makes up a small part of the total cost to the end product. So that one also maybe they're willing to pay because they'll say, might think add on another 100, 200 for a product that costs 10, 20, 30,000. What's the big deal, right? So the mindset might be that. Okay. Another reason why consumers might not be very peka towards harga yang tinggi ataupun kenaikan harga is when they are not paying for it. Okay, this one very straightforward. So you imagine in another 6 more months or so, you will start working. And when you start working, maybe you have to do some sales trip to another state ataupun pergi overseas, and your company actually pays for your whole trip. So if your company pays for your whole trip, then you'll be like, oh, okay, then I'll book this hotel, I book this type of flight, because you know already that you're not actually paying for it. So you see that your sensitivity towards the price is then very low. You will just take whatever is the most convenient to you because you're not paying for it. Okay, so if this all makes sense to you, can you give me a thumbs up? Are you okay? Ya, terima kasih semua. Okay, alright. Then we go on to the next part. Thanks guys. Okay, we go on to the next part, which is estimating cost. Okay, kita tengok balik six main steps. Okay, kita dah habis determining demand. Kita masuk kepada estimating cost. Right. So what do we look at estimating cost? Okay, so as usual, bila kita nak estimate cost, we will look at their punya total cost, which can be understood as the summation of their punya fixed cost dan juga their punya variable cost. So as you've learned before, fixed costs are the cost that walaupun production level dia berbeza ataupun dia sales revenue berbeza, cost tu tetap kena bayar. So like for example, sewa. Sewa tu tetap kena bayar, every month is fixed. It doesn't matter if you produce more or less, sewa tanah tu memang perlu bayar, ataupun sewa bangunan tu perlu bayar. So this is fixed cost. Then kita juga ada variable cost. Variable cost ni bermaksud that dia bertukar-tukar berbanding dengan level of production. So this could be our raw material. Kalau that month kita kena produce banyak ataupun kita kena jual banyak makanan for restaurant for example, kita memerlukan lebih bahan mentah. So kalau kita memerlukan quantity bahan mentah yang lebih tinggi, maka that means that ini adalah variable cost yang bertukar-tukar dengan bilangan yang kita produce ataupun volume yang kita produce. So this is variable cost. So when we put these two together, you see this is the total cost. And what the firm wants to do when they deal with this fixed and variable cost ialah dia nak mencari or they want to look for the optimal punya production volume based on dia punya total cost. Okay, what is the optimal production volume? So this is easy to understand if you can imagine a manufacturing punya firm. Let's say Perodua punya manufacturing line dekat Malaysia ataupun Proton punya manufacturing line dekat Malaysia. So as you know, manufacturing line tu dia buat kereta. Okay, dia buat sebiji. Okay. The bigger dia punya manufacturing punya line, the more kereta dia boleh buat. The smaller dia punya production line, the less kereta dia boleh buat. So for let's say for the current punya Proton punya production line, let's say that dia boleh produce maximum 12,000 cars a day. Okay, and if they want to continue to expand, that means that they have demand for maybe up to 20,000 cars a day. That means that to produce 20,000, dia kena gandakan dia punya production. That means the maximum is only 12. So maybe they have to open another, another manufacturing line to produce another 10,000 atau 8,000 ataupun 12,000, whichever is dia punya variable. So to do that, they have to add on costs. So at some point, they will say, oh, tak berbaloi. Okay, tak berbaloi untuk kita kita actually open another firm which maybe the demand is only short term ataupun people will move on to EV punya car atau sebagainya lah, right? So they have to gauge whether it is worthwhile for them to produce at that amount because it will incur costs. So what they're trying to do is dia nak a sweet spot or the optimal punya production volume with the current capacity that they have. So although their maximum capacity is maybe 12,000 units a day, their sweet spot ataupun dia punya optimal production volume maybe could be 10,000 or so based on how many people they have working there, and also how many people can actually produce that level of productivity in a manner that's actually good for their punya entire punya company. Okay, so when they deal with this one, they have to take into account what is the sweet spot and do they want to go ahead with the sweet spot or not. All right, so that's where they try to figure out what is the optimal production punya volume. Okay, then we also have the experience curve effects. So what's the underlying assumption for experience curve? The underlying assumption here is that the more experience a company has producing an item, the more the cost will actually fall. And the cost will fall because workers actually become better at their work, okay? Dia punya flow of materials become more smooth because with more experience, they become better and better and better at managing their punya production ataupun manufacturing punya line. And also they become more secure in terms of where do their raw material actually come from. They become better at negotiating the contracts, get better prices the longer they actually produce. So the assumption here is that when they actually produce for long term, the longer term they run, you will see that there is some reduction in the cost because of experience, which is why dekat sini you akan nampak dia punya experience curve punya effects. Okay, so we take into consideration there is company A and also there is company B, right? And company A and company B, in actual fact, can sell their product for RM100 satu, provided that they actually produce 200,000 units. However, for company A, if they actually increase their punya product Okay, sorry, I was disconnected. Are you still there? Okay, ada. Alright, thanks guys. Okay, where did I get cut off? Did I hit 400,000 already? Sudah ke? I dah hit 400,000 ke? Or did I start at 300,000?
300.
300,000. Okay, thank you. Right. So you can see here kita ada A, company B, and bila dia produce 300,000, they can actually price it at 90 ringgit. That means they gain some, what do you call that? Lowering of cost so that they can actually price at RM90. If they produce at 400,000, then they can price even lower at RM80. Okay, but then when they have this, doesn't mean that they just straight away go for RM80. Okay, they can actually compare dengan dia punya competitor and tengok competitor dia boleh buat apa. So here for the competitor B, you can see that dia punya cost is about the same, alright, but bila dia hit 300,000, dia punya pricing is actually 95, and at 400,000 dia punya pricing adalah 90. Okay, so in this scenario, kalau dia nak take out dia punya competitor, right, dia nak halang dia punya competitor from doing as well as them, they price it at 90. Okay, they price it at 90. So at 90, okay, at 90, they still enjoy healthy punya margin. That means keuntungan dia masih healthy. But at the same time, the competitor cannot actually compete with them unless the competitor actually goes to 400,000. Okay, so dia memberi tekanan kepada competitor dia, and bila dia berikan tekanan kepada competitor dia, it will actually help them move ahead. So here you might be saying, you might assume that macam mana you tahu competitor punya costing. So imagine if you are in a industry for a long period of time, and in the same industry you actually have about the same punya supplier of raw materials, and then from there you boleh kira dia punya expenditure in terms of dia punya electricity, saver dan sebagainya. You can actually figure out dia punya costing. If you're in the same industry, you can actually learn the industry. And from dia punya costing, you faham mana raw material dia datang, what are the components that they actually need, who actually produces the components. Maybe the components are actually produced by the same company, and then they reassemble it in their factory. So you can actually figure out that the costing can be actually very competitive. So that means it's quite close. Okay, so from there you can see that some companies who have been in competition for a long time with each other, they actually understand their punya costing and the implications of their punya costing. Okay, so here what we're talking about estimating of their punya costs. All right, estimating of their punya costs. Okay, then we go on to looking at kita punya competitor punya prices. Okay, so when we look at competitors punya prices, one of the things that the company needs to take into account is whether dia nak masuk or dia nak take on dia punya value price punya competitor. Okay, so what does this mean? Value price punya competitor, that means that they are competing based on low price. Okay, they are competing based on low price. So here, if let's say I am a full-fledged punya airline, okay, full service punya airline, Malaysia Airlines, you expect that if I'm a full-fledged punya airline and I give you full service, that means my price needs to be not the lowest. Where I throw in all the freebie, the makanan, the extra luggage, the change, the service to actually change the date, to get refund and so on. That means I already bundle it into the airline punya ticket. So when I am a full-fledged punya airline, service is actually expected, and I also expect to pay a higher punya price. I know I'm not getting the lowest punya price. However, in the market, we know that there is also new airlines that actually focus on low cost punya airline. So in low cost punya airline, the offering is different, because in low cost punya airline, you pay the lowest fee untuk dia punya seat, you secure dia punya seat, but everything else you kena bayar. So the extra luggage you kena bayar, dia tak bagi you refund, ataupun dia bagi refund dalam points, then after that makanan pun kena beli, semua kena belilah. Basically you nak seat yang bagus pun you kena bayar, right? So the target market for these two airlines is actually different, right? for Firefly, where they are trying to compete based on the lowest prices, then the focus is that they will always deliver their punya lowest punya price. So for full-fledged airline macam Malaysia Airlines, there will come a point where dia akan decide kita nak masuk ke tak kepada low-cost airline ni. Do we want to pursue this low-cost airline business? Because it might not be a necessity for them. So it's up to the company and the company's decision makers to actually decide, right? So when they are trying to make this type of decisions, they look at item 1 and item 2. Okay, so item 1 is that they will actually look if they actually go into this low cost punya airline, will their business actually become more competitive? Right? Will they actually be able to compete dengan dia punya competitors? And would they actually get some advantages compared to if dia tak buka Firefly ataupun low cost ni? Ada tak dia dapat apa advantages? If they decide for both of it, there is advantages to be gained, or they see that it is actually relevant to dia punya business, okay, then dia akan proceed sebab dia ada banyak synergy. Right? The business actually has a lot of synergies where you can already imagine that dia boleh prioritize certain routes for dia punya certain routes and certain target markets for dia punya full-fledged punya airline, and they can charge good pricing. And for Firefly, they can actually focus on different target markets who also want to fly. All right. So here is for them to understand whether this will actually be good for their punya business and it's not too far away from what they already can offer. So both of them are already in airline punya business. Okay, they are already in airline punya business, and they already have all sorts of planes under them. So here, if they want to go into Firefly, it will mean that dia kena reconfigure dia punya plane sikit to put in more seats, because low-cost airline punya flights actually is a little bit more cramped. Full-fledged punya has got a little bit more space. So that translates into costing and also the pricing that they choose lah. Right? So dekat sini, kalau dia nampak, okay, this is actually good for us to have the full offering, high and also low, allows us to capture the whole market. We can compete with other competitors like Singapore Airlines, who also have Singapore Airlines and also contoh dia punya Tiger Airlines, for example. It will help us capture the whole flying punya market. Then kita masuk lah. Then they will actually masuk. So here they will actually look at the competition, which is dia punya value price punya competitors. Alright? Okay. Then we go on to selecting a pricing method. Okay, so when we select a pricing method, we have to, of course, pay attention to our own costs, and our own costs will actually set the price floor. Yang paling bawah sekali, yang paling basic sekali ialah kita kena tutup kita punya cost. Okay, so di lantai, price floor, di lantai, imagine it's a house, di lantai tu, we have to make sure that we understand what is our cost, then we can price above kita punya cost. Okay, and the opposite of that would be kita juga nak establish dia punya ceiling. Okay, so rumah kita ada lantai, kita ada ceiling. So ceiling would mean that this is the highest price that we can actually price, and this is actually based on the customer punya assessment of unique features. So the more unique and differentiated our brand is, the more superior our brand is, the more consumers want to pay for it. Okay, but we have to have something that is actually differentiated. Okay, so if you have something that we really stand out, you will see that the brand that is the most stand out, they actually can command dia punya highest punya price. So for example, Apple can command that price because Apple is known for their punya unique punya products that they actually come up with. Alright, so you can see that dia punya price ceiling is connected back to customer punya assessment of unique features. Dia punya lantai ataupun dia punya basic sekali punya price actually comes back to that company punya cost. So of course kita nak untung, so therefore we always have to price above kita punya cost. Okay. Then we look at the other competitors punya pricing. Okay. So the other competitors punya pricing gives us some understanding of their punya market punya structure, in the sense that these are all the price points that the consumer is actually willing to pay for. And then we then understand, okay, they are willing to pay for this, kenapa? Dia ada apa? Dia dapat apa? Oh, yang ni dia dapat free SIM card. Okay, yang ni dia dapat this and that, this and that, this and that. So when we look through our competitors, you will see that they can actually price it differently on purpose, and it actually gives us an understanding of what to actually offer at a certain price point. Okay. If you can actually see this in your head, if you understand what this is, can you give me a thumbs up? If not, give me a thumbs down. Okay, Anis, thank you. Izzat, Aisha, Hafiz. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, Hari. Okay, so that's pricing method. We take into account dia punya cost, dia punya unique features, dan juga dia punya competitor punya prices. Okay, so when we look at dia punya pricing method, we know that there's this thing called a markup pricing. So markup pricing is one of the most straightforward ways of pricing, di mana syarikat tu just decide basically dia nak earn berapa. Okay, how much do they want to get in return? Or what is the margin that they actually want to get. So all they need to decide ialah, okay, apa margin dia, 10%, 20%, what does that translate into? 20 cents, 30 cents, 40 cents, whatever it is, corresponds back to the price of their punya item dan corresponds back to their punya cost. So markup pricing is one of the most frequently used for non-complex business, is one of the most frequently used and one of the easiest one. You just decide how much markup you actually want ataupun berapa margin yang you nak dapat. Okay. Then kita ada target return pricing. Okay, so target return pricing is encapsulated inside here. Alright, where you can actually see that a company will put in their punya investment, and then a company will then decide how much profit they want to get out of their punya investment. Okay, so that will mean that they take into account dia punya total cost, dia letak dia punya target profit, and then after that, that will give them an indication of dia punya total revenue that dia nak. And if you actually look at this graph carefully, you'll see that at the bottom, it actually has sales volumes in units. That means that we start from zero, kita jual zero, and then after that, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000. Because we also want to figure out, if you want to hit this revenue, okay, total revenue dekat sini, untuk dapat profit ni, kita kena jual berapa unit? Okay, so the answer is 50,000 units yang kita kena jual. Okay, and when you actually look at this graph, they've got another thing, which is dia punya break-even point. Alright, so break-even point is also, if we sell 30,000 units at a certain price, then you will also see that, okay, they will be able to break even. Okay, so here also the company will decide how much return on investment dia nak. So in this example, dia nak 20% return on investment. So here, they will put it into dia punya formula dekat sini, and then for dia punya 1 million punya investment, you will see that 20% return on investment will mean that dia nak 20,000 ringgit in return. Okay, so all they need to do here is that they put in dia punya numbers accordingly, and then you will actually see that dia akan dapat dia punya target punya price. Okay, so you see that dekat sini is actually a variable. So it really depends on how much the target profit that the company actually wants to get. So it can be 20%, it can be 10%, it can be 5%, whatever it is. All right. And what will happen if, let's say, they set the price at 20 ringgit and they cannot sell as many units? So it means that they don't hit 50,000 units. What will happen? That means that dia punya target profit akan berkurangan. So if they can only sell 40,000 units, that means that they have to settle for the fact that at 20 ringgit punya harga, dia hanya boleh dapat maybe let's say 10% of dia punya return on investment. Okay, so these numbers are obtained based on dia punya decision of dia nak dapat how much from dia punya investment that they actually put in. Okay, all right. Then we have the economic value to customer pricing. Okay, so this one, there's no equation here because this one is very complex. Okay, so among the three method pricing here, this is the most complex one. And this one, as its name suggests, yang ni menggunakan cara, dia menggunakan equation economics. So for this one, usually for this complex type of business, they will hire economists to actually buat dia punya pricing, because inside dia punya calculation, you will see that they take into account a lot of different variables, and dia akan input variables tu ke dalam dia punya economic punya equation, and from there they will come up with their punya pricing. So if you don't have the skill, that means that kalau saya marketer biasa, saya tak pernah, saya tak pandai, ataupun saya bukan economist, I do not take a degree program in economics, then I cannot do this. So they will have a department where they actually hire the right people to come in to actually do this, and you can already imagine there are a lot of variables that they can actually put in, and then they akan impute dia punya what do you call that, dia punya maklumat. Right? From there, they will actually get their punya price. Okay. Okay. Then we also have competitive pricing. Competitive pricing ni memang you boleh nampak sahaja di mana-mana, especially if you have a lot of food eateries next to each other in a business location, or next to each other in a mall or in a food court. Okay, so when you have this type of establishments, they are competing with each other because the consumers are just walking past their punya tempat makan. So the consumers will then very quickly, when they walk up and down the street, they can very quickly just compare their punya pricing. So when you have this type of pressure, when the consumers actually can just eyeball the price straight away, based on their punya point of purchase punya information, you will see that some of these firms are pressured to actually price according to their punya competitor punya price. Okay, so for example, if you actually go to Mid Valley during lunchtime, you'll see that a lot of the lunchtime punya promo, they are priced at maybe 15.90, 18.90, 20 ringgit, 20 something ringgit. And the reason why it's priced that time is because that is dia punya peak time. Dia ada banyak office workers actually walk around there. They only have that 1 hour to actually make that decision. So they are competing literally with the neighbors. Even though they don't sell the same food, they're competing with the neighbors around them. So in those type of scenarios, kita guna terus competitive pricing. Okay. Okay. Dan kita ada auction pricing. Auction pricing is also not new to all of you. Okay. If there's anyone here that pernah pergi auction, can you give me a thumbs up? You pernah pergi auction? Either auction kereta ke ataupun auction number plate? Tak ada? Okay. So for your information, for those of you who are, Hazin pernah. Okay, so for those of you who are buying your first car in the next year or so, I'm sure you've heard of custom punya number plate. Have you heard of custom number punya number plate? Your car plate is customized. That means you can choose the car plate. Ada pernah dengar? Pernah dengar? Boleh thumbs up. You can have a custom punya number plate. Okay, and you know that you need to actually pay for that number plate. And so happen when you buy that number plate with JPJ, it is actually an auction. Okay, so the person who's willing to pay the most for the special punya number 2211 atau 212 actually gets dia punya number plate. So sometimes for very popular numbers like 1111, you can see that the bid will go up until beribu-ribu ringgit. I'm sure you've seen in the newspaper before lah. You akan nampak ada, dia pernah cakap when they buy cars, they buy the auspicious punya number, atau they buy the number 12, those type of favorite numbers that people buy actually cost quite a lot of money. And here, It's not because JPJ set the price that way, but because it is actually through auction punya pricing. And the auction used to be face to face, now it's all online already. So you can put in your bid on JPJ punya website, and then from there you can actually see if you get the number plate or not. Okay, so the thing with auction is that there are actually a couple of types of auction. The one that we usually see in movies and also in JPJ is the English punya auction, where the price actually goes up. So they start with the lowest price, and then after that, the price actually goes up. But there's also the opposite, which is known as the Dutch punya auction, where they side at the highest price, and then people actually bid down. Okay, so here you can, the way you can think about it is that it really depends on what we are selling. If you think that a lot of people will be bidding for it and the price, it will make more sense to actually get a higher price as the value actually goes up, then you will see that you use a English punya pricing lah. For Dutch punya, they already know that the price won't go to zero. It will never go to zero. So that's why they are very confident they can actually start at a very high price, and then after that you just bid down. Okay. Then we also have sealed punya bid. So sealed punya bid, typically, this one actually you will see when people bid to get a contract. Some types of government contracts actually require a sealed bid. So a sealed bid would mean that they are looking for, let's say, tender to build the MRT ataupun tender to build the next TRX, for example. And they require that companies actually send in a bid to actually get that contract. Okay, so here what they will do is that they only send in a sealed bid. That means that only the person sending it in will know what is the amount that they put inside that particular bid. The other competitors will not know. So here, of course, people will agak-agak lah, because I told you already, when businesses are in competition with each other, they can actually figure out their punya costing, right? So they will agak-agak to see, which is the bid that gives the buyer the most value lah. So it might not be that they go for the lowest bid, because sometimes the lowest bid also means that they cannot give everything. Dia tak ada kemampuan untuk beri everything. So dia hanya boleh bagi apa yang dia ada lah. So based on apa dia ada, dia just give the price that maybe is not the highest punya price. Okay. So dekat sini, the buyer doesn't necessarily go for the lowest punya bid. It is more value for money punya principle, where they get all the things they want, at the same time it's actually a fair price. Okay, so they might actually work through this thing called a sealed bid. So only the supplier knows what is the price that they actually cite for that particular item. Okay, then we go on to setting the final price. And when we set the final price, you must be aware of this thing called a price discrimination. Okay, and the assumption for price discrimination is that we have different prices. Okay, the assumption is that we have different prices, but the price has got no connection. The different prices has got no connection or no proportional connection to the difference in cost. So the cost is not the reason why the prices are set differently. Okay, it's not because of the cost. So what could it be caused by? So we have 3 different degrees of price discrimination. The first degree is caused by dia punya intensity of the customer punya demand. So for example, they need it now, or they need it in the next 2 days. So there's certain urgency. So kalau dia ada certain urgency, you'll see, naturally you dah tahu, of course the price will be different. The price will be higher because it's a rush sort of thing. People have to change the way they work to accommodate this request. So harga dia mungkin akan naik. The second degree is that you will see that some sellers actually charge less when buyers actually buy in more volume. So because dia sekaligus dia beli banyak kan. So then here they might say that, okay lah, I bagi you discount, or I give you at a more competitive punya price. I give you a better pricing lah. Because I'm hoping that if you have this type of volume in the future, you will come back to me. Okay, you'll come back to me. And also I already clear some of my inventory because you buy from me. So this is second degree punya price discrimination. So let's go on to third degree. Third degree ada banyak. Okay, third degree ada banyak. And we try to understand what is contained dalam third degree punya price discrimination. So it could be that um, there are different types of users, meaning that you see that different types of customers actually pay different types of price. So if you go to a museum, for example, children and golden citizens usually pay a discounted punya price, and adults actually pay the full price. So what could the reason be for this? The reason for this would be because children and golden citizens don't earn so much anymore. They are not known in the society to be the highest earning people, whereas the people who are actively in the workforce will be the adults. And so if they actually want to get people to come to their museum, they have to think about what dia punya consumers boleh afford. So give me a second to actually get a sip of water. Okay, I'm back. So the next one that we want to look at is product form pricing. Okay, so what does product form pricing mean? So we use the same raw material to come up with different products. And when we come up with these different products, you will see that we actually have different pricing, and this pricing is not proportional to their punya cost. Okay, to understand this, we'll take an example of Evian. Okay, so let me just open this. So I know most of you are familiar with this brand, Evian. If you've actually had this recently, can you please give me a thumbs up? Evian punya mineral water. Ada recently, ada minum? Ada? Some of you ada minum? Okay. And where does Evian punya air come from? It actually comes from the French Alps. You nampak dekat sini, gunung-gunung, right? French Alps. And the thing is that Evian doesn't only make Evian punya water. Evian juga ada menggunakan dia punya yang natural tu untuk buat dia punya facial spray. Okay? Have you all seen this in Watson before? Dia punya facial spray? Ada tak nampak? Okay, no thumbs up. So ada. Okay, Anis ada. Okay, Aisyah pun ada. Okay, so you can actually go to Watson or pharmacy store. You will actually find dia punya Evian punya facial spray. And the thing that when they actually sell this facial spray, they actually say that dia punya is water based. Dia punya air actually datang daripada dia punya French Alps. So the common denominator here is that it is the water that actually comes from the French Alps. One is made into dia punya facial spray. The other one is made into mineral water. So just now when we're looking at dia punya price discrimination, right? When we're looking at the different types of this price discrimination, we know very well that there ada there are different products and they sell at different price. Okay, so the baseline is still the same. It's water from the French Alps. That's why dia punya branding tak tukar. They maintain Evian so that you actually make that association. But one is mineral water, one is dia punya facial spray, and it's actually priced differently. Okay, so the mineral water is a lot cheaper than the facial spray is actually higher price. Okay, so that is product from pricing. And you'll see that it actually doesn't matter what the cost is. It's not proportional to their punya cost. They price according to what the consumer is actually willing to pay for it. Okay. Right. Then we also have channel pricing. Channel pricing, you can already figure out that that means that it depends on where you buy the thing. Okay, it's based on distribution. Right? Where do you buy the thing? So for example, when we drink Pepsi ataupun Coca-Cola, the price actually differs from the restaurant to the grocer to the vending machine. So in the vending machine, maybe you get a few dollars, you can already get a Pepsi or cola. But if you go to a sit-down punya restaurant, you'll find that maybe you have to pay 9.90 for Coke, ataupun some restaurants 6 ringgit for Coke. So it's the same thing. You're still buying the same thing, almost the same volume, but dia ada different prices based on dia punya different distribution. You beli dekat mana, basically, right? And then you also see kita ada location pricing. So location pricing would mean that different location, different price. This one when you go for uh, Beyonce punya concert, Taylor Swift punya concert, Lisa Blackpink punya concert, you know that different seating price, VIP seating price is going to be very expensive. And then for the rest of us, Marhin, the pricing is actually a lot cheaper. Okay. And then the final punya price discrimination ialah time pricing. So when that item is actually in demand, so when there is some sort of celebration ataupun some sort of festival, you see that things become more expensive. So macam kalau kita nak beli bunga during Valentine's Day, suddenly dia punya cost naik 2-3 kali ganda. Okay, so that is form of price discrimination. What is price discrimination again? When dia punya prices does not reflect dia punya proportional difference di dalam cost. Okay, alright. We go on now to product mix pricing. Okay, product mix pricing. So in the product mix pricing, you can see that what the firm is trying to do is the firm is trying to set the price that maximize profits on the total mix. Okay, on the total mix, yeah. So we take example of loss leader pricing. So this one, most department stores still do this. Most grocers that you see around us still do this. So the Lotus, the Aeon, Jaya Grocer, Hero, 99 Mart, all of them practice this. And what they practice is that they will drop the price on the well-known brands. And when they actually drop the price, they will attract people in to actually buy the item. And they're hoping that when people go into that store to buy the thing, they usually don't only buy one thing. They end up buying their groceries there, or they buy a few things there. So they're hoping that once they get the traffic, because of the price drop, that this will actually allow sales of other items, and the other items which are at normal price can actually compensate for that particular item which the other price drop. Okay, so this one, if you talk to your parents, or if you talk to your caretaker or even your grandparents, they will be able to tell you which item is actually cheaper dekat mana. Because it's not always the same. And you'll see that different grocer actually will change dia punya item that murah over time. It's also not stagnant across the year. So at one point of time, I say cerita sikit, my family was actually talking about affordable punya toilet roll. Okay, toilet roll. And we were actually comparing price. Okay, at this price point, what do I get? At this price point, what do you get? And we found out that a lot of us actually noticed 99 Mart at that point of time, dia punya toilet roll Kleenex, dia drop price there. Okay, so not only I noticed, I also noticed that when I went in to actually get the toilet roll, because it's at a discounted price, or the price is actually lower, I also saw other aunties there that actually say, hey, you also realize that the price for the Kleenex here is actually cheaper than elsewhere. So the point here is you pay attention. Or sometimes the Hero, for example, they will actually tell you, or they'll give you alerts on which are the items which they have dropped their punya price. Okay, so that's loss leader pricing. Okay, then we also have optimal feature pricing. Okay, optimal feature pricing. So optimal feature pricing is when you can actually see that there are two different types of prices. One for dia punya main product, and the other one for dia punya optional products ataupun features. So for example, kita pergi makan dalam restaurant. When we eat in a restaurant, you might actually see that the food price is very affordable. So maybe one chicken chop for RM18.90. Okay, so which is quite affordable if kita duduk sit down punya restaurant, aircon environment, sesuai untuk dating lah. Okay, sesuai untuk dating, 18.90 reasonable. But they make up with the beverage, where the beverage too is actually quite high price. So that's when you will actually get the beverage is a fancy colored drink that they start at 12.90, 13.90, 14.90, and the price of the drink is almost already the price of the makanan. So this is how they actually get pricing in terms of dia punya optional feature, dia punya drinks is considered dia punya optional feature pricing, and the pricing for the beverage is actually quite high, but the food is actually reasonable. Okay, okay. Then we also have captive pricing. So for captive pricing, you have to think about items like razors, where we actually need the blade for the razor to actually function, and we actually need to change our blades quite often. And every time we change our blades, that would mean that that we have to buy those blades. So that means if you are a user of a certain brand for a long period of time, you keep on replacing their punya blades. That is known as captive pricing. You memang akan beli balik dia punya razor because you already buy the specific punya razor punya head that you nak guna. Okay. Dan kita juga ada two-part pricing. Two-part pricing is very common dengan telco. And in telco, you will see that kita ada fixed punya fee. That means every month kalau you guna postpaid, you're already paying a certain fee. And then if you use more for calls, or you use more for internet, or you use more for SMS, that is a variable usage punya fee tambahan yang you guna that exceeds the number inside your package that you're actually given. Okay, so there's two-part pricing. Then we also have by-product pricing. Okay, apakah by-product pricing? The hint is actually in the name itself, where we are looking at by-products that we can sell. So just think of this example. Okay, just think of this example. A company plants sugarcane to actually produce sugar. Gula yang hari-hari kita guna tu, okay, comes from sugarcane. Okay, untuk dapat sugar ni, dia kena press out dia punya juice, and then from the juice they actually produce it into sugar. Alright. Then what happens to dia punya fiber? Okay, kita dah press the sugarcane. We have the leftover punya fiber. The leftover fiber they take and they make boards. So these boards can be used untuk construction punya purpose, to build things and so on. So here you can see that they actually can sell two things. One is dia punya sugar, and dia punya cane punya fiber, dia boleh membuat boards to actually sell to the construction punya industry. Okay, so in this scenario, the whole business is a sugarcane punya business, tetapi dia ada jual dia punya sugar, dan juga dia ada jual dia punya by-product. Dia punya by-product adalah dia punya boards untuk construction punya purposes. Alright. Then we have product bundle pricing. So product bundle pricing, I don't think I need to explain, because most of you have bought bundled something before, even if it is actually a bundled punya software ataupun a bundled punya product, where you actually buy a package of things that you can actually put together different things to make it into a bundle. So this one, I don't think I need to go into great detail to explain it. Okay. In this slide, we touch initiating and also responding to price changes. Okay, so you can actually see what are reasons why a company might actually reduce their punya price. Kalau dia turunkan dia punya price cuts, what could be the reason behind it? So one of the reasons behind price cut could be dia dah overproduce, so dia ada excess items dan dia nak clearkan dia punya stock. Right, so untuk clearkan dia punya stock, you akan nampak dia akan drop dia punya price. They just want to clear all the stock that they have. Maybe they break even. Alright, or they might actually buat price cut, turunkan harga, kalau dia nak dapatkan market share. So they want to grab more of dia punya market share. Dia nak lawan dengan competitor dia. You can see that one of the things that they do is they akan buat price cut ataupun basically dia turunkan dia punya harga. Okay, then kita look at price increase. Apakah reason that dia mungkin nak naikkan harga? So the most common one would be there is an inflation in cost. That means ada cost naik, right? So if cost naik, then you'll see that typically that would cause dia punya pricing to increase. Other than that, kita juga ada anticipatory pricing. And here what they're trying to do is dia dah tahu or they've already known beforehand that the government is going to change some sort of policy, or the government has already changed the policy. We are waiting for it to take effect. And when that policy actually takes effect, we already expect that we might pay extra punya taxes. There's a new tariff atau there's a new tax ataupun there's a price adjustment that the company has to abide by. So if they have to abide by what they're doing with the price adjustment ataupun a price increase ialah they already anticipate that pricing. So anticipatory pricing. Okay, and that might cause price increases. But the thing is that anytime a company actually changes their punya price, remember, companies are usually not in silo. They are not the only company that's actually selling the item. They usually have competitors. And when they change their pricing, the competitors will be also paying attention to them. Some competitors that are paying attention to them, especially if they are initiating price cut untuk dapat lebih market share, dia nak tarik pengguna beli barang dia, you actually see that the competitor might actually go into competition with them. Okay, they might go into competition with them. Similarly, for themselves also, if they see their competitors either raise the price or reduce the price, that will also spark department of that brand A to now start to think, oh, what is my competitor doing? Do I have to match? Do I want to just wait and see? So that's a decision that they actually have to make, because pricing changes actually start to indicate that something is going on. And because we don't have any spy or we don't know what the other company is doing, we basically what the company A can just do or my company can do is that I observe and then I decide whether I want to retaliate or not. Okay, so price changes, it comes with some risk lah. It comes with some risk. And the company have to be quite sure when they want to adjust their punya pricing that it's actually for a good reason. And they actually know what is the implication, then they adjust their punya price. Okay. Okay. So when we talk about pricing, there's also a part of it that we actually look at their punya incentives. Okay, incentives. And what falls under incentives? So incentives are sales promotion punya tool. Incentives usually are short term, and incentives are given out so that they actually stimulate the use of the item ataupun dia stimulate orang membeli. Okay, so you will see that the most common incentive that we know is sales punya promotion, which all of us know very, very well. Okay, and in sales promotion, what they're trying to do is that they're trying to get a response from the consumers in a short period of time. Okay, they're trying to get a response from the consumers over a short period of time. And what they're trying to get the consumers to do is maybe they want the consumers to actually buy and keep the item, knowing very well that the amount that they actually buy, they cannot use in a short in that period of time, dia tak akan guna habis, so dia akan simpan. Alright, but the thing is that when we use this sales promotion, the consumer might actually think that the company's offering is actually devalued, because remember, we're dropping the price. Okay, we're dropping the price. So while it's very attractive, the consumer might actually pick up a lot and dia akan simpan. In the mind of the consumer, when it comes to positioning, because price dia turun, you'll see that there is a reaction where dia akan ingatkan bahawa produk ni adalah devalued ataupun dia punya value adalah berkurangan. So yeah, so it's a decision that the companies need to make. Bila dia nak gunakan sales promotion, dia nak guna untuk apa? right? So typically in our country, we typically see the sales promotion towards the end of the year because anyways, they already want to move all their stock for the new stock to come in next year. So you will see that in those type of scenarios, people already know that it's end of the year, it's going out of style, the price is going to drop. So people don't mind picking up the items. So yeah, it's about how we manage this type of promotion. What do we want to use it for? Okay, all right. So what can incentives do? Okay, and what are the objectives of giving out an incentives? So if we give out incentive, what we expect from the consumer is that the consumer will actually buy more frequently, or the consumer might be tempted to try a new brand they've not tried before. And after trying that brand, you might actually see that they switch permanently to the new brand. So this is delivered through incentives. So they have to do some sort of sales promotion. Then you'll see that the consumers might actually be motivated to take action. But consumers are not the only one that we give incentives to, or marketing doesn't only think about consumers. Marketing also gives incentives to dia punya retailer. Okay, so retailers also need motivation, and so retailers, okay, or wholesaler, you can see here, if they're given the incentives, they might have more motivation to actually stock that brand. Maybe they take on more units ataupun dia tolong to promote the brand more. So what are the incentives that we will give to retailers? We'll actually see later. Okay. So when it comes to incentives, what the marketing department needs to do is they need to decide who do they want to give their incentives to. So what is the target market? Siapa? So in this example here, in this website that you know very, very well, this is Shopee. You know that Shopee almost permanently has a new user punya zone. So you know that if you're a new user, you will actually get some sorts of incentive that you can actually get voucher and so on and so forth. So for each of these, all right, when they want to give out this voucher, you'll see that they will establish some sort of condition of participation. So this one so happen is new user. For how long they want to run this promotion for? Where is this promotion available? Some, if they actually want to incentivize you to use their app, like for example, Zeus Coffee, Watson, they want you to use the app, then they will move dia punya incentive kepada app tersebut. Right? So here they will decide lah what is the distribution of dia punya vehicle, macam mana dia nak bagi voucher ni, what sort of platform that allows you to straight away cash in on you punya voucher. These are things that they need to figure out dengan dia punya distribution vehicle. And you will also see for vouchers, typically selalu ada some sort of timing. And the cost actually goes into dia punya promotion budget. Okay, somebody pays for this, the company basically pays for this. So if they're doing this, that means that they want return on the promotion that they actually do, or the incentives that they give out, they want some return back. So they will also measure. So only if it actually appeals to the target market will they actually continue doing it. If it doesn't appeal to the target market, then they will stop because it's cost, right? This is cost, right? So consumer incentives, you've seen a lot. I'm not going to go into this in detail. I'm just going to highlight the ones with the explanation because those ones are maybe can appear a little bit confusing. So we start with the first one, which is price packs. So price packs just means that they take multiple items and they put together. Like when you buy hand sanitizer in Watson's, or you go to Aeon and you buy hand sanitizer in a 3-pack, it's cheaper than buying one single one. Okay, a premium is basically you get something free with your purchase. So for example, if you go to McDonald's and they have a new brand of a muffin, they say if you buy a coffee, we give you the muffin for free. Okay, tie-in straight up is collaborations, and financing would mean that they give the financing punya support in terms of what the target actually needs. So sometimes it could be that they say that you can buy now, pay later, and they give them the convenience of buying things even though they don't have the money right now. So they can break it down into interest. And this is one of the reasons why you see a lot of online punya business. they also go into online banking ataupun they try to partner up with somebody to actually have money services or financing services on their punya website, because they are trying to give this type of what do you call that, financing punya facilities as a form of incentives. Okay. Okay. Then we go to dia punya retailer punya incentive. Okay, tadi kat atas sini kita nampak kan dia ada dua, satu consumer punya, consumer kita dah habis. Sekarang kita masuk kepada retailer punya incentives, or it is also known as dia punya trade punya incentives. Okay, so inside dia punya trade punya incentives, you will see that what the company will do is that they might actually give out allowances, they might give out free goods, price off, dan juga payment punya discount. So what they want here is that they're giving the incentive because they want to reward this type of behavior which they want. Okay, these are the behaviors that they actually want. So they want, for example, the retailer to actually buy more quantity, to take on more quantity from them. So what they do is that dia incentivize, kalau you hit a certain quantity, dia bagi you free goods. If you pay your bills promptly, that means you dah beli, you kena bayar kan. If you pay your bills promptly, dia akan bagi discount. So they are incentivizing the behavior that they actually want. Okay, and some wholesalers and retailers, they also play a function of stocking and also promotion. That means that they can, if they have warehouse, they can actually move more stock inside their punya and then from their punya warehouse, they will distribute to their punya retailers and so on. But of course, when they take all this on, they're confident that they can sell lah. That's why they take on that amount. Alright. So you see lah, dia juga akan bagi allowances sebab dia nak behavior macam tu. Dia nak dia punya retailer take on the units and keep in dia punya warehouse. That means that the manufacturer tak payah simpan stock tu, dia boleh keep on producing and replenish dia punya stock. Alright. And also retailer, wholesaler, kita perlukan bantuan dia untuk promotion. So for example, if you run a grocer, we promote the whole grocer as a whole, but also we highlight certain products that can actually be sold, right? Okay, and then kita juga ada sales force punya incentive, because some products when you sell, you actually need a face-to-face punya sales force. Like for example, if you buy glasses, you actually need sales force, right? So untuk businesses that they actually have sales force, you also see that dia punya sales force, dia akan bagi incentives so that the sales people will actually be motivated untuk cuba jual barang tu, especially during off season. Okay. Okay. So we've reached to at the end of the chapter. Do you have any questions so far? Ada soalan? Harif kata tak ada. Any questions at all? Any questions at all?
Tiada.
Tiada. Okay. So let's just take a few minutes. Let's just take a few minutes to reflect on what we've already learned so far. Based on the slides, which are the parts that you can use for you punya marketing plan? Okay, you look at the slides right now, and can you tell me what information can you actually use from the slides in your marketing plan? Okay, if you've already identified the slide that you can use, can you put the slide number inside the chat? Which slide do you think the information is actually useful for your marketing plan? Ada jawapan tak? Siapa yang tidur tu kena bangun. Sila bangun. Tengok slide, okay? And then let me know which of the slide you can actually use in your marketing plan. Okay, which of the slide you can actually use in your marketing plan? Okay, So how many of you think I can use this slide? If you think I can use this slide, please raise your hand. Okay, Faris, bagus. Please give me a thumbs up if you think that I can use this slide. Right, bagus. Thank you. Okay, what are other slides that we can actually use? Information from where? Can we actually use for kita punya marketing plan? Mana lagi? Anybody ada buat airline tak? Any of you doing airline? Tak ada? Okay, tak ada jawapan, tak ada Right, nobody doing airline. What other slides can we actually use? Can you put in the number in the chat? Which are the slides that we can actually use? $16. Okay, what is 16? Oh, okay. For you, you akan guna ni. You will analyze you punya competitor punya pricing. So if you are in a business where you can see that dia ada value price punya competitor, that means there is a lower cost punya business actually coming in. Then you have to decide whether one of the recommendations is actually whether you want to go into dia punya low cost. Daniel says 5. Let's look at number 5. Number 5. Number 5. Number 5. Okay. Okay, so you nak guna number 5. Alright. So maybe what is the point that you nak highlight dekat sini? Daniel? Cuba type. You boleh type. What is it that you want to highlight here? Okay, what else can we use dekat sini? Mungkin yang ni, you kena tahu your product is in elastic ataupun inelastic. So kalau you buat pertukaran harga, what will actually happen? You dapat demand tinggi ke demand rendah. And then what else can you use? Maybe you need to use yang ni. If you're in a business where things are next to each other, then you will use competitive punya pricing. So you have to know what is your competitor punya pricing. Okay, auction maybe kurang. And then this one, price discrimination pun boleh. If you actually are dealing with some products that quality dia tak berubah, tetapi dia ada some price differences based on dia punya what do you call that? Different types of users and so on and so forth. Okay. What else? Okay, Faris kata 21. 21 di mana? Let's look at 21. Okay, this one 21 economic pricing maybe I don't see your point dekat sini, and also I don't see what business you're talking about dekat sini. Maybe it's a complex business that you are writing about, then mungkin boleh, right? That you actually justify to say that the complex pricing is due to this. Mungkin boleh. Alright. Apa lagi slide kita boleh gunakan untuk kita punya marketing plan? Okay, sini. This one. You can actually use untuk you punya marketing plan. Because you have to be very clear if it's pertaining to the product category that you sell, you have to be very clear what is the strategy that they actually use. So mungkin you boleh buat some comparison to see whether it's relevant to you or not. Okay, and then the other useful one is actually dia punya this one, incentives. Because most of students like to propose dia buat promotion, some sort of promotion, and then from promotion tu usually dia akan kata dia akan approach this way lah. Dia akan kata that they want to give it to new users dan sebagainya. That's one of the common things that students actually propose. So if you're going to propose this, and if you're going to be like the other students from the other batches, then maybe you should read up this couple of slides to actually look at the approach to dia punya handing out of dia punya incentive, because you have to then specify all this dalam you punya pricing, dalam you punya approach untuk berikan dia punya incentive. Okay, so please take a note of these slides that I've actually highlighted to you, and just compare with the business that you're actually going to focus on for you punya marketing plan to see if there's anything that you can actually leave out and then put dalam you punya marketing plan. Alright? Okay. So if there's no question so far, we're going to end for today. Ada lagi soalan? Sunyi saja? Sunyi maksudnya tak ada kan? Okay. Thanks Firdaus. Alright, so if you don't have any questions for today, please make sure you put in you punya attendance and we will close for today. Thank you very much. See you on Wednesday. Okay, see you. Bye. No worries. Bye.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, madam.
Bye. Bye-bye.